Okay, so thank you very much for this great invitation. I mean, as Damodar already mentioned, we know each other for a long time, and of course, I also would like to thank Professor Sridhar sir, because I mean he was also my inspiration in Mangalore University. So of course, like I mean, today we are going to talk about importance of communication skill in research career, and of course I'm currently working in a research center as a division head for the neuroscience. So because I also take communication as a part of my neuroscience teaching also, like how we can improve. But the question is why communication? Because where we actually fail or where we successful, where we have the success in the communication. Because I have seen so many research scholars like in my career, like they're very good workers. Like they on bench they can do excellent work, but they generate a lot of data, all those things. But unfortunately, some of them fail in communication. But even though they did a lot of hard work, but when it communication they fail. But at the same time, there are some people who can even like without any data they can communicate because but at the end the people look at the person who give good communication. So that is why communication is very important, and how you communicate with people, that is also very important. I think today I will try to tell you like with my experience, like how, because even I was also very poor communicator when I did my first presentation, but I think over the time we could develop some of the experience and some of the key points how we can improve our presentation. I mean, that is what we are going to I'm going to give you, of course, on my personal experience and some of the points regarding the communication. So why communication? Of course, communication is very important to to tell the people what you did and what you, especially in the scientific field. And what is communication? When it communication, there are two major components. One is sender, that is the presenter, like the person who is going to talk, and there is another component, receiver. So it's almost like a loop actually, because the information will be continuously sent by the presenter, and receiver has to, we call it as encode. Whatever the information given by the sender has to be decoded by the receiver. So that is a loop. I mean, they almost like a loop. Then receiver will give some sort of feedback. But of course, when we present it for continuously for, I mean, half an hour or 45 minutes. We don't see that feedback from the receiver, the audience, but we can sense it. So that is a technique how we can sense the feedback from the receiver, even though they are not talking, but looking at their I mean called body language, or by looking at their face, you can already make out whether your presentation is boring or whether your presentation is very interesting, all those things. So these are some of the skills we developed, I mean, over the time of our experience, so that we are going to study today. Like I mean, I will try to give you some of the key points how we can improve your communication. And of course, when you say communication, there are different ways of communication. Either communication through the speaking, like you can give a good, I mean, you can go to conference, or I mean, especially in a scientific field, you can go to a conference where you can give a talk, and we can, I mean, you can tell whatever the studies you did in a better way. And of course, we also have, because when it comes to scientific communication, we also have another thing called writing, that is like in the form of publications, or like in the form of like I mean, poster presentation, all those things like, and also the third one is visual images. You can also like, I mean, this is in general, it is not only for the scientific communication. You can also show your, I mean, your, I mean, you can also communicate through visual images, like you can show some sort of schematic, or like, especially in a professional presentation, they use mostly like a schematic to show like how company is doing better or whether they're doing good, all those things. And third one is body language. Body language is also very important during your presentation, because some of the signs through your like hand movement or like a body movement, you can also communicate to the pitch, communicate with the audience. So there are different ways you can communicate. That is, I mean, broadly we can classify them into four different categories, that is speaking, writing, visual images, or body language. And what is the communication goal? So at the end, what is, I mean, whenever we present it, we also should know that why we have to communicate. I mean, there are a lot of things, but of course, when we ask for communication, we don't think all those things, but we need to realize that there are a lot of communication goals. For example, we can start from to change behavior. Sometimes the communication, like for example, if you go to a counseling or some sort of like a learning, coaching classes or something. So sometimes the communication also need to change behavior of kids or even the students sometimes. So that is also very important, and a good action to get action. So you also ask some to change some of the action from your students, or like these are, these are the general communication goals what I'm talking here. And to of course, for in the case of scientific communication, to the third point is very important, that is the to ensure understanding. We should make sure that the audience will understand what we are speaking, and how our research is, can be communicated with that, like how our research is going on, and what are the findings from our research. So that is what makes for the very important for to ensure understanding. The audience should realize what this person is talking and what this person is going to talk, and like what is communicating and what is coming from his talk. And to persuade, so that is another important point. So like you have to impose something, like sometime in the, especially when you are as a teacher, sometime like when you go to school, you also need to persuade that you have to force the kids to do something. So that is also very important. Like you can't, currently you can't punish the student. You need to have a communication skill to make the student take that action. So that is what we call it, to persuade. And of course in general, we can, if you combine everything together to get and give information. So whether it is in school, or whether it is in scientific conference, or whether it is in a professional professional meeting. So at the end, it's all about to get and give information to the audience. So these are the some of the major communication skill, like to change behavior, to get action in general, to ensure understanding, to persuade, and to get the and give information. At the end, of course, in summary, it's all about how you give the information to the audience. And there are, like when we talk about communication, there are, like we call it as 7 C's of communication. There are like 7 important things we have to take care during our presentation, or preparation of presentation, and and on the completion of your presentation. So these are the 7 C's of communications, what we call it as. That is consciousness, courtesy, correctness, clarity, completeness, consideration, and concreteness. So I will go one by one, with some example. So let's talk about consciousness. Like of course, when we communicate or when we present, of course, scientific community, of course, we'll have all the scientific the people from that field, expert from that field. But if you are giving a public speech or something, you should also have a lot of consciousness, because you should also know that there are different different population of audience. So you have to be very conscious when you talk about something very sensitive. So one should stick to the point to keep it brief, and also like very brief. You have to be very conscious. Sometimes people go on talking one single point for like a half an hour or something. So just imagine, if the audience doesn't want to read 6 sentences when it could be communicated in 3 sentences, the audience always want to make it in a simple way. They also always want to listen something in a simple way, because they are spending their time. So what we need to, as a speaker, what we need to realize, that the audience also spending their time in listening to you. So you should not make them bored, like go on talking on one subject or one point for like 10-15 minutes. It's also making them really boring. So you can keep something very brief, if it is possible, wherever it is possible. So that is what we call it as consciousness. Before you speak, you should have conscious to make it very simple and don't drag it for long. And sometimes, people use like a lot of repetitive words, like for example, people tell, like for example, or for instance, or you see, or definitely, basically. So in we have to be conscious to, of course, sometimes it is an innate behavior, so some speakers cannot avoid that. But when I say consciousness, the speaker should have a conscious to avoid these words. But sometimes it come repeatedly, but it's okay. But you have to make conscious to not to repeat such sentences. And again, the third point is do not repeat the point several times in different ways. So that is, some people makes their talk very boring because they talk same thing in a different way, in multiple ways. So that is also makes the, I mean, you also need to understand that because audience spending time into listening to you, so you can't make them bored of your talk. So that is why don't repeat the things in a different way. So that is about the consciousness. That is first C. And second C is courtesy. That is, we also need to be more courtesy during your presentation, like be sincere. I mean, that is very, very important, tactful, thoughtful, and appreciative. I mean, also like when we have omit expression that hurt, irritate, or insult the audience, because that is what happens with the public speech. Also, like in some cases, like in the during the scientific communication, also you may have like a group of people, like a scientific group coming from another lab who always oppose your scientific discoveries or hypothesis. They may be disapproving, or they may be against your hypothesis on like a research field, but that you should not express during your presentation, because it is not only that group of people are sitting there, but there are a lot of other people also sitting. So you should not, you have to make sure that you are not talking to that people, you're talking to the entire audience. So that is why you have to always omit expression that hurt, irritate, or insult the somehow only like one or few people in the, like in the audience section, and grant apologies graciously. Like either you can, I mean, if there are some hot discussion during scientific communication, or even during meeting, you can also apologize, and you can discuss these things later after the, you can just say that, okay, we'll close this, I mean, discussion for now, but we, for the further discussion we can go later, and all those things. So you can have this hot discussion, whatever it is, after the presentation. So you should not express, or you should not present your weakness in front of the big audience, because it will spread in a big way. So maybe when you are presenting next time in the same hall or in another institute, people may not come, because they will always already spreading this news that, I mean, that speaker is not good because he doesn't know how to talk to people. So that is why these are the some of the tactics, like it comes of course with the experience. So maybe, or the speaker will fail to do this in first presentation, but over the year, like we get this experience of like all this, including all these points in our presentation. And this is about the second C. And the third one, it is called the correctness. Also use the, I mean, here especially, like use the right level of language. Like the language can be very simple. It need not be like I mean high standard English or something. As long as you are grammatically correct, it is fine. I mean, the audience are fine with that. So use right level of language, and check the accuracy of fact, figures, and words. So this is very important, because a lot of people just come and talk some, then they just tell some information which is without any knowledge. So that is where these people also fail, because if some audience is, I mean, brilliant enough to, I mean, question that particular mistake, then you are caught. So as a presenter, you will feel some sort of humiliation in front of big audience. So that is why, even though it is, whenever what I do is like whenever I present, like if whenever I prepare any slides, so I make sure that I know every slide, even though some slides could be copied from Google or some other publication or something, because just to, for the clarity, we use this. But you should know like what is written in that, and what are the, for example, if you have some graphical representation, you need to know like what are this graph actually represent. Even though it is coming from some other's lab or some other's lab, you are just using it as a reference for your presentation, but you have to know the fact and figures and what is used in that, because you can't be blind as a, like a public, especially like when you are giving a I mean, you are giving a talk as a resource person for one particular scientific conference or workshop, where you should not get humiliated. So that is why before presenting something, you have to be, check the accuracy of fact, figures, words. And if you think that you are not understanding that particular figure or that particular pictures, don't include it, because later you will not get humiliated. So that is why always use very simple pictures or simple figures and simple words in your presentation. And again, like the third point is maintain acceptable writing mechanics. That is like a very simple thing. Even it could be very simple. People like very simple presentation. I mean, if you try to make it complicated, people always get confused. I mean, maybe it is good for, we think that when we present complicated things, we think that, okay, we are telling something very hi-fi, but actually audience are not interested in that, because audience come to get some information because they are spending their time on this presentation. And of course, choose non-discriminated language. So like make sure that you are not harming anybody in the audience. So that is what we call it as correctness. And of course, the fourth one, that is the clarity. Again, there is again repetition, something like clarity, like correctness and clarity is almost similar. Like in the case of clarity, you always choose short and familiar and conversational words. Like sometimes people use they use the synonyms, and to make it a bit complicated. Even for the simple word, they try to use some synonyms to make it very complicated. They think that when you use like this complicated words, people may think that you are intelligent or something. This is like just a, how we call it, just sort of imagination, that audience will think that you are intelligent. But that is why always try to use very short, familiar and conversational word where all the audience can understand it. And again, construct effective sentence. Like don't make like people make, like sometimes we listen to some of the talk, they will use like complete pages of like words. They just write whole paragraph on that. But make sure that you don't put so much of words on your presentation. So always make complete effective sentence. Like you can make a very simple summary of that whole paragraph and you can put it there. Like and constructive effective sentences or paragraphs by unity of idea and sequencing. I mean, you don't need to copy the entire paragraph from another papers or another book on your presentation. What you can do is you can just summarize it, make it very simple. I mean, what I'm telling you is, first you should understand the summary of that paragraph before you communicate to the audience. So that is very important. So make always a summary of a whole paragraph. Make uh, present it in a very effective sentence, very simple way. I mean, of course, and the third point is achieve appropriate readability by using formulas or informal languages. Like wherever it is possible, you put a lot of figures, like a lot of images or formulas. Don't write the complete, like lot of wording. So that is where people always get bored. So we think that we are putting a lot of information, but audience are not at all interested in reading, because I mean, you don't need to read for them. They can also read from the textbook, isn't it? So that is why include example and illustration and visual aids. Like these are some of the things which can improve your presentation. And next one is completeness. This is also very important because sometimes people just tell half information. So provide, even if you're providing some hypothesis or some data, provide all the necessary information. Sometimes we try to, because some labs have this some PIs or some boss have this habit of not revealing all the data to the public. They want to hide something. But in such cases, don't present at all. That present I mean that remove that presentation from your PPT or like your presentation, and don't give any half information. If you are giving, give it completely. Like only you have the complete story, then only you try to present it. So because of course there is, like in scientific community, there is also something called people also take your idea. So that is why so I'm not blaming any people to for hiding information, because there are some people even try to take your ideas from your presentations. That is why some people are scared of that, because some people come to the presentation only to get the information from other lab. In such cases, what you can do is you don't need to present at all, because once it is published as a research article or something, it is almost it is already out. But before that, if you want to hide it, don't present it. But don't give half information, because you're not that is there is not only the one audience which is looking for your information. There are hundreds of other audience who are looking for the broader information from your talk. So that is why provide, whenever you present something, provide all the necessary information. And of course, after the presentation, there is always a lot of questions. So try to answer all questions asked, and never, with my experience, what I would say is like, don't neglect any questions. Even it could be a very silly question, because some speakers have this habit of neglecting audience. We can't treat, even it may be very silly question, so you have to take it very positively. Maybe it could be very simple for you. For example, yesterday, for last 3 days, we were learning like a 3 days workshop in Anapa University, but on some of the Drosophila technique. But there were so many questions, but some of them were very silly. It looks very silly for us, but it is not silly for the audience. So that is why you should not neglect any audience. Even it could be very simple question. You have to try to answer any questions, or if you don't know the question, if you don't know the answer, you can always say that I will get back to you later. So that is, I think that is the best way to avoid some of these questions during the presentation. And give something extra when desirable. Like some people like try to give only very small information, like almost like fill in the blank. So if they ask yes or no, but you can always give more information, because audience like that. So with my experience, if you give more information about that particular techniques or particular experiment, they like this. So always try to give extra, something extra when desirable. Basically what I'm trying to say is, you should enjoy when you are presenting something, and you should engage the audience with you, along with you. So that is what we say is completeness. And of course, consideration. So you are considerable, and of course, do not lose your temper. So this is what happens with some of the speakers. Like if there is some questions, sometime, especially like people who doesn't have a lot of experience with presentation, they also lose some temper, because if that they doesn't know the answer, immediately they lose temper, and they try to argue with the audience. So never argue with the audience, because audience are your, almost like your students. And they are the one who are going to spread message that this person is a good speaker later. Even if you think that that question is not relevant, or that question is like not relevant to your topic or something, you can just calmly tell that this question is not belong to, or you can even say that I don't know the answer. This is one of the best thing what we learned from my experience from Max Planck. If you doesn't know the question, always you can say that I don't know this question, but I can get back to you later, because there is nothing, nobody is intelligent to know everything in the field. Even in my own field, I may not know some of the information, but you can calmly tell, or you can humbly tell that I don't know the answer for this, I will get back to you later. So that is how you can talk to your audience. So that is why never lose your temper, because if you get temper, if you lose your control over one question, so that will continue for the next question also. So that is why during presentation you have to be very calm, and you need to know how to control yourself. So that is also very important psychologically, how you can control yourself. And again, do not accuse or do not charge them without facts. So there is another, happens with public speech or political speech or something, where people try to accuse others. And of course, like for scientific communication, we don't, normally we don't apply this such type of languages, or such type of accuse, all those things. But very rarely people do that. But it is always better to do not accuse or do not charge them without any facts. And of course, the last one is the concreteness. So you have to be clear. If you are not clear, don't present that particular point. So that is why use specific fact and figures. Always go with correctness. So before presentation, you always make sure that every figures or every points in your presentation is important. So that is why, even for example, whenever I present, even if I go to my classroom, I prepare at least 3 to 4 hours for 45 minutes of presentation. Like, even though I know, even in my own field, even though I know the subject, but still I spend a lot of time in because you can't correct during your presentation. That is why you have to be always prepared enough to correct. That is why use specific facts and figures and put action into words, so they make sure that this whatever you're talking will be like I mean uh, real with some real facts. And also like choose vivid image building words by comparing and figurative language. You can use different way of concrete, but when we say concreteness, you should always have like a very clear fact and very clear hypothesis, especially in the scientific communication. We need to have very, so these are the 7 C's, what we call it as, like concreteness, clarity, all those things. So if you give more importance to these different points, your presentation will be very, 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 very clear, and it can attract the audience. It can make audience to get engaged in this presentation. And then there is like some sort of like communication error. So people make a lot of communication error. Of course, when you make communication for the first time, you don't realize this, but over the period you also start realizing that. Always you need to have this self realization that of course I make mistakes, and I'm ready to correct it. So these are some of the communication errors. like so just imagine the first point is finishing other sentences. Like for example, when we say like finishing other sentences, like the audience may be asking some questions, so allow them to ask them the complete questions. Don't make something like don't stop them in between. Let them ask the complete question, and you start, and you realize what the question. So sometimes people, the speakers also like so anxious, they immediately try to answer in between. So don't, so always try to avoid that. So make it like a one to one. So once they finish, you start the next one. So once they finish questions, you start answering them. So always finish other sentence. Like don't interfere in between. Then don't talk in between. So that makes very one-to-one communication between audience and speaker. And again, same, that is preparing our response before someone has completed speaking. So always wait for their complete questions. And also like multitasking while listening. So this is another big mistake people do during presentation, or question session, or question answer session. Somewhere people, like some of the speaker try to like do multitasking. Like they may be listening to some of the question, but at the same time they may be picking their mobile phone and checking some like message or something. So this is almost like, I would say this is almost like you are insulting your audience. So during during your presentation, it is always better to switch off, or keep your mobile in I mean, silent mode. So never get distracted. So if you don't listen to your audience, if they're asking your questions, so just have some sort of eye contact. So if you're not doing that, I personally feel you are trying to insult that particular audience. So also I think audience will also feel that, I'm asking question, this person is looking at some other message or something. So you can't neglect. You have to make sure that for just for 1 hour you are with audience, and you are not with any other things like mobile or internet, which can make you like distract from your presentation. So also I feel it is some sort of insult for the audience. And filtering content or meaning based on the speaker. So this is also like some sort of you have to listen. As an audience or as a speaker, you have to listen to each other completely. So don't make any misinterpretation with the sentence what people speak. And also speaking for others. So there are some, this happens with some sort of public speech or something. So you should talk for yourself. Actually, you can't say something for others during your presentation. You can do it like after the presentation, but not during the presentation. So these are some of the common communication error. And I would say like always have some sort of eye to eye contact with your audience whenever they are asking questions. So so of course we can discuss this more during our question answer duration. Of course, this is again like what makes a good communicator. If you have adequacy and clarity, integrity and timing. Timing is also very important. Some people like talk for 2 hours, even though they are allowed to talk 40 minutes or 30 minutes, they go on talking. I mean, even though you may have a lot of data, but people are not interested in your like, your lab may be generating like a lot of data, but people are not interested. I mean, on average, people can listen to you only for 30 minutes to 40 minutes. If you talk more than that, they are not interested. They will just start sleeping, or even if it is very interesting topic also, they will start sleeping or they will just get distracted. So that is why timing also very important. You should make sure that if you are allowed, if you are allowed with like 40 minutes, you make sure that you complete your talk by 30-35 minutes. That is very important, because audience are not interested to listen to your story or your experience. They are, because everyone is busy, just like speakers, the audience also very busy. So timing is also very important, and integrity, like you have to make sure that audience are part of all the audience are part of your talk. So you have to take care of each one of the audience. So that is what we call it as integrity. And this is what will make you a good communicator, or the if you want to become a good communicator. And how to improve communication skill. So this is some of the points which I took from my own experience. Like whenever any subject or any topic, whenever you try to present, knowledge of the subject is very important. Because if you are talking, for example, if I talk about neurobiology, and if there is a very simple question from the audience about basics of neuroscience, if I doesn't know, so then the speakers will get humiliated. So it is always better to know the clear idea of the subject before you talk. Whenever you talk about a particular subject, read well about that subject, at least the basics of that subject. So otherwise you will get humiliated. If you get humiliated with your first question, then you can't answer any of other questions, because these things will go on in your mind, like I didn't answer this very simple question. So that is why reading is also very important when you have scientific communication. Of course, when we have a scientific communication, all the students are well aware of this subject, or the what we call it as literature survey, or like what they are working. So you have to know why you are working, what are you working, and what is the hypothesis you are trying to prove. So knowledge of the subject is very important, because if you know the subject, you are so confident. If you don't know the subject, then you are not confident in presentation. You'll always have like that inferiority complex when you are presenting. And know your audience. That is very important. That is individual or groups. So whenever I go for any presentation, first I ask the organizer, so who are the audience, like whether it's their students, or whether they are publics, or whether they are kids. So because I even give talk in schools also. But if you go to school and you can't talk hi-fi in the school, you have to go to their level. The speaker has to change his speaking level to their language. Like you can't go to public and talk about neurobiology in detail, all those things. So it is always better to know your audience in advance. So that is why when Damodar asked me to give a talk, I asked him who are the audience, because that is where you can think. So presentation is not about like just spontaneous. Like you have to prepare at least one day before. Who are your audience? What are you going to talk, and what are you? So that is why the information about audience is very important before you prepare your presentation. And message, of course, clear, conscious to the point, and well organized. So of course, today I didn't put a lot of figures, but it is always better in scientific communication. It is always better to tell the hypothesis or tell the message in with a schematic diagram, or with a more pictures, all those things. And feedback, this is very important, verbal or non-verbal. So you always take the feedback from the audience. So what I do is like this is one of the technique I use. So whenever I go to classroom, or whenever I go to conference, I keep at least 4 to 5 people as a reference from different corner of the room. So I keep eye contact with that person. So then I can realize whether my talk is boring or whether it is interesting. You don't need to keep eye contact with all the people. You can keep only like 2 to 3 people whom you know. Or I mean, you can, like, for example, if you're going for a scientific conference, you can keep one eye on one professor, or like one of the senior most professor who knows all the subject, and you can also keep on eye contact with one of the students. So that is how I do it. So with their facial expression, you can make sure that, okay, this is okay, my talk is going well. Or if they start, like, if they start get distracted, then, so this is some sort of things which comes with the experience. But always take the feedback from the audience, because even if it is negative, it is fine, because it we have to think that it will always help you to improve your communication. Even if the audience tell that it is one of the worst presentation during your first presentation, it is fine, because from there you can improve it. Because even I still remember my first talk in Max Planck Institute, where like I was so nervous, because my first presentation in Max Planck was in front of like all the big shots, including 2 Nobel laureate. I mean, you can imagine a person from Mangalore University going to Max Planck Institute and giving talk in front of all the big shots, including 2 Nobel laureate. So I was so nervous, but I learned so much from that presentation. I was nervous. It was one of the worst presentation in my life, because I mean, you can't imagine, isn't it? Like, first presentation, and with so many people. But of course, but I learned that, what I realized that I can improve my presentation. So I mean, that is how presentation after presentation you try to improve your presentation. So that is why, even if it is a negative feedback, don't take it as negatively, take it as a positive feedback. And there is the feedback, if the negative feedback also, you can, it will help you to improve it in a very well way. And control of anxiety, this already we already talked about this, control of anxiety. So never lose your control over, like, as a, I mean, especially like if you are an experienced speaker, never lose your control, like so that will completely mess up entire presentation. And the sixth point, that is, I mean, I already discussed about this, so eye contact with the audience. So you should always have eye contact with the audience, because they are the one who are going to change. Because it may be presentation for 40 minutes, but in that 40 minutes you can change your presentation skill also by looking at the audience response. So that is why you should always have eye contact with the audience. At least, of course, if there is a big crowd, you can't keep eye contact with all of them. At least keep some reference, at least at the four corner of the room. And I mean, these are some of the communication skill, I would say, like how to improve the communication skill. I think with that, I mean, I already told that if I'm allowed to speak 40 minutes, I should speak 40 minutes. So I will not take much time. So with that, I would like to thank all of you, and we can go for, I think, a question session. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shamprasad. I hope I am audible to you.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
That was an effective communication. That was an interesting presentation, and you have conveyed your messages very clearly and loudly too. Can you just stop presenting? You can go from the
Yeah, sure. One
Google
second.
Meet platform.
Yeah.
Now we are better in terms of visuals. So I am very keen. I am very keen. First question is from me, actually. I am very keen to know about your about your worst presentation of your life, and what went wrong or what went not so wrong.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, like, I mean, when we do PhD in public university like Mangalore University, where we are not having any presentation actually, because we don't have any DAC meeting, all those things. I mean, that's what used to happen with most of the universities here. But nowadays, of course, there are a lot of training for the students. I never had training when I present. Only thing is I presented during my defense, like PhD defense, but it was also not training actually. We just go and present something there, and I mean, of course, we are all under pressure. But when I went for, like, because in Max Planck we have it's an annual presentation, you have to present your data for uh, the big audience. Entire Max Planck people will come and sit, like around 100 to 200 people will come and sit, and you have to present in front of them. I was like so nervous for almost for 1 week. it's like how to face these people, especially because these are like big shot, and I mean they are like almost like I mean Nobel laureate in like one of the patch clamp technique. They were hardcore neuroscientists, and my subject was also not so good during that time, because that was the but that was only fear I had. But presentation, but they didn't make me humiliated, or they didn't make me like feel insulted or something. They were asking normal questions. So but I learned a lot from that, because if you know the subject well, you can talk in front of anybody, even it could be a Nobel laureate. It is fine, because they're also normal human. They're also asked very simple questions, but it's only the fear what we have. But at the end of the day, it is not like they are not sitting there to scare you. They are just sitting there to listen to you. But if you prepared well, of course I prepared well, but it was like a lot of nervousness. But I mean, I felt it was a very bad presentation, but my boss called me like, I mean, it was really okay. It is a good, okay presentation, but you can do better in the next time. So it was, I mean, I mean, but I improved. I hope I improved from that. Like, but I took a lot of positive things from that presentation.
I think if somebody in the audience are going to get an opportunity to present in front of Nobel laureates, let me just give one example from the life of John Nash, actually, the Nobel laureate.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems he visited the University of Hong Kong, where I did my PhD. He gave a public lecture on his scientific research, and almost 99% did not understand. It's not that sometimes you are wrong. Sometimes probably the audience is not able to catch up with you.
Yeah. I mean, that is what I that is what I tell. Like, maybe audience are not follow. I mean, they don't follow, but that is why you have to keep your presentation very simple. That's a problem with most of these. I mean, Western. I mean, speakers. I mean, of course, their language is very, I mean, very high standard. So sometimes we are not able to follow it. But some of the people speak very simple. But that a simple presentation is enough to come and convey the message to audience. Audience are not there to check your English literacy, or how good you are in English or something. But as long as they get the message, I think that is fine. Even like very simple language, even in Canada also, I mean, we talk. I mean, people are happy to listen to that. Like, so at the end, audience wants some information, because they are not there to, I mean, look at how good you are, because they are coming to get the information about the subject or something. I mean, that's where I think most of the teachers fail today. Like, I mean, that is what I feel in universities also.
I think
Simple communication.
what are I think we are understanding here is that the fear of audience, especially comprising of the expert, is a very real one, and we
Yeah,
can
it's a very real one.
yeah, we
But
can
the
over
real,
over a period
but
of
the,
time.
but actually you don't need to. I mean, with my experience, I would say like the expert, you don't need to worry, because they are very simple always. The people who are very good in subject and very good in their research field, they are very simple and humble. Only like you have to worry about the that's middle people who just come here there to check, like, what is your, I mean, presentation skills, all those things, like, but I feel like the big shots, or the people who are really good in subject, they are very humble people actually, because they are more worried about the subject rather than presentation skill. It is only fear what we have the as a speaker. We don't need to worry about that. I used to worry about the audience, but of course you need to know audience, because you can't go to school and talk about hi-fi about neuroscience in school. You have to go to their level. So that is why it is better to know the audience in advance.
Yeah, about that big people are normally. Let me give one example from my own experience. When I did during my PhD, I worked on a couple of fungi, anamorphic or hypomycetes, and when I went for my postdoc in Canada with Keith Stifford in Canada, I told him I worked on these fungi. I mean, he is a guru of hypomycetes. He has written a big book on genre of hypomycetes. I said, so this is what I worked on. These are the two. Then he says, I have no idea about these fungi. I had never seen them. I have not.
Yeah.
So this,
So
yeah, he was quite
yeah,
humble.
it's just a fear actually. Actually, it's a psychological problem actually. But
Yeah,
I
I
think
think when
after
the
some,
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I think after several talk, you start realizing that I think audience are, I mean, they are not there to scare us. They are there to listen to us actually. So that is
Yeah,
what.
I mean, I have the recordings of most of my talks or as an anchor, on my YouTube. So if I study all these videos of my presentations or my participation or the MC, I can see myself as an improved version after 10 years of
Yeah,
this of involvement. I think a presentation and making a good presentation will take time, and you can
yeah,
always begin and you can always keep trying to be better, I
yeah.
guess.
Always,
Yeah.
it's always experience actually. So
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. And with this, I let the audience ask questions. I will spend next 20 minutes answering
yeah,
some
no
of the.
problem, no
Yeah,
problem.
I think Risha Pimenta, please.
Yes, sir. Amazing session. My doubt is, when you're presenting to an audience, would an audience prefer storytelling or relating to real life type of explanation, according to you, according to your experience?
I think according to, because whenever I go to classroom, I give a lot of lifetime experience. I think they like it actually. Like what I mean, at least my students like my life experience. But storytelling is also good at the lower level, but at the PG level or like a PhD level, they always look for your experience, what your experience in presenting, or what your experience in life, or what is your experience in research, because it is about the maturity of the brain, isn't it? Like if you go to school, they like storytelling, but if you go to PG level, they like, because they are already matured and they already know the facts of life, like they already know the difficulties, what they are going to face next. So you have to choose the audience. If you go to school or like up to PU level, you can start like with storytelling, but I think above that, the audience like experience, your experience or other experience, like how to face life, or how to face the society. That's more important, I think. Like that's where I think, I mean, at least when I go to my classroom, I tell my experience. I think they all close their textbooks, sir, please tell your experience. So I think they like experience with a as a maturity, like then. So
Yes, sir.
I hope I answered your
Yes, sir.
question.
I noticed that too. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Shashireka, please.
Hello, can you hear me clearly now? Can
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hear me?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I can hear.
Dr. Shamprasad, and I definitely I was remembering my experience also when you were talking about it. It's it's very important. I started my research 12 years after my teaching. I mean, after I
Uh-huh.
joined teaching, so it was a little different experience. Only thing, when I went into the research lab, it was like, I was colleagues to someone who are much younger to me, but
Okay.
I never was made to feel like that, and that is very important. The rapport between the colleagues and the guide is very
Yeah,
important to get that confidence. And when once that confidence is developed, definitely the presentation also. I mean, there is a mutual help that you get it when you go for a presentation. And as
yeah,
you said about the experience part, this is very important. Whatever we experience, and if we are trying to relate it with the work and then talking about it, it becomes much easier. So it was really interesting to hear you talk about this, and also so freely you talked about your experience of your first presentation also. My first experience was like when I went into the lab for the first time, and I was literally sweating too much. It was like teaching,
yeah.
but
That always happens actually.
that is the starter's problem. So thus I make it a point to tell the students whatever I have experienced. I tell the students, and even if it is a very stupid experience, I tell them, see, I did that mistake, you don't do that mistake, kind of a thing. So they learn, and those who are ready to understand and grasp it, they are doing a good job. I mean, it's very important for the preparation part. Necessary. You can't do a last minute preparation and go to the
Preparation.
go to presentation. To do a presentation, if it is tomorrow, you can't do few hours before, and then it's going to be a shabby job. So this also, it's very important for the students. Your talk is very important. I have made all so that they know ki, presenting is not a show. It is not like
Yeah.
singing a song. Even
Yeah.
singing a song needs a, but it is not just going to the stage and singing. But this preparation is very, very necessary for a research thing, to know about the subject, and also to be confident that whatever we have worked is of some value, and that value you're expressing it to the audience, and you should do it important. That I'm sure the students and the other people in the audience would have learned it. And it's very nice that these kind of topics are being brought about. Dr. Shenoy and Dr. Sridhar have been doing wonderful series of these talks in introducing us to the various scientists and experts. That's very nice. It was a very wonderful talk, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
Shenoy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I think it's only psychological. I mean, as a neuroscientist, I can say that it's only psychological thinking that
Yeah.
people. I mean, after I think 2 hours, you will forget Dr. Shamprasad Varija Raghu. So that is what you have to realize that actually. So that is what
My
whenever.
first, yeah, my first teacher was my father. My first teacher,
Yeah.
in the sense, he didn't teach me anything, but when I was going to join the college as a lecturer, he said, the first thing you remember, the person in front of you doesn't know what you are going to talk.
Yeah.
So think
You
like that
to
and
talk.
speak about it. So that develops a confidence, and that's how you
Yeah.
start. And once you start, you keep improving. Listening, every experience is an improvement.
No, that's what I
Very
tell
nice.
my PhD students also. They're also always scared to present like in a departmental meeting and all. I just tell like you just look at like they're scared about one or two people who are asking like some nonsense questions during. I mean they just come there to, I mean, discourage students.
Yeah,
But I
sometimes there
tell
are
them,
some elements like that.
yeah, I just tell them, my student tell them like how many audience are there, like they'll tell around 150, sir. So you're worried about one person, but you're not worried about that 149% people sitting there. So you have
Very
to
true.
worry about that 149 people rather than one person. So that makes you
Yeah,
like the presentation skill improved actually. So we are always
exactly.
worried, especially students worried about that one or two people who come there for like questioning these people, or I mean they always, I mean there will always one or two people will be there to
Yeah,
discourage student, but students should
exactly.
take care of that. Like there are other people, so if they are, I mean, other 150 people, if they are worried, then your presentation will go very smoothly. You just don't,
Yeah,
I mean, just don't worry about these two people, because
yeah,
this happens in almost all the institute. There'll be always one or two people like negative people who just want to come and show off their like I mean hierarchy
yeah.
or like their egos. But I mean, why students should worry? I mean, world is
Exactly,
so big.
exactly.
I mean, world
So
is so big.
they should only look at people whom they know are
Yeah,
going
you
to
look
be
at the
positive.
positive people.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that is where we have to change the mentality of our students. You look at the positive things, don't look at the negative things. So
Yeah,
negative
and there are
elements
so
will be
many.
always
Yeah,
there.
yeah, there are so many others who want to learn. So we look at them, and then we
Yeah,
have to
that is
tell
there. I
them
mean,
about
I
topic.
tell my student they are improving. I mean, my students are always improving their presentation. Even if they make some mistake, also don't tell them that you are making mistake. Always try to promote them. You just look at their next presentation. They always improve it. Even if they
Yeah,
make mistake, just tell okay, it happens. So just tell them that it happens, but you can improve it next time. You always go with a positive like
yeah.
attitude. That students will do wonders actually. So that is
Yeah,
we have to.
confidence is very, very important. There's one more
Yeah.
thing which, on behalf of the students, I want to tell. Sometimes they hesitate to tell even the supervisor whatever doubts they have in mind. If
Yeah.
they are going to keep their doubts back, it's never going to work. It's
Yeah. Not
whatever
going to work.
silly doubts it is, they have to speak it
Yeah.
out so that it gets cleared. And once it is cleared, that is where the communication comes in. The
Yeah.
communication starts between the two persons, the guide and the student. That is the first thing that it has to be very absolutely smooth and good
Yeah.
rapport. I mean that freeness should be there, so that absolutely wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a kind of a relationship only with the science. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I just want to add one thing from my personal experience. My PhD student, I mean, she finished the PhD when she presented her ideas in front of a committee in my institute. I mean, she was fresh student, first year. And her mother tongue is Marathi, not English, of course. So one of the committee members said the presentation needs to be improved. I said, sir, she has a long way to go. She will improve. And she always had trouble in problems with her communication. But at the end of 6-7 years, and when she presented, when she was doing a PhD,
defense.
I thought that was the best presentation, very clear. I think it's also the amount of experiences, amount of knowledge you garner through the time, that will also make you a better speaker. That's what I wanted to say.
And also, I think the responsibility of the PI also, because as long as you motivate them, like even if they make a mistakes in presentation, as long as you motivate them, they always try to improve it. So some PIs have these issues, like they always try to discourage students. I think that is where we fail, because I think for me, current students are brilliant. I think they just need some sort of simple tuning. They can do wonders actually. So they're brilliant kids actually.
I think
They need continuous motivation actually.
Yeah,
motivation, very, very important, sir.
I just want
motivation.
A good presentation at the PhD level. It's all about your knowledge, and many people may not know how to make good slides. That also matters. Third thing is a kind of supporting system. Your committee, the departmental committee, which looks up, monitors your progress. Luckily, in my student's case, many people are very supportive. So I found her presentation at the end of her, defense. Her PhD defense was the best. So one has to be very patient with the PhD student.
No, but with that, with my experience, I felt that students are not worried about what committee is questioning them. As long as the guide is supporting them, motivating them, I think they're fine. They're not worried about the whole committee. But if the guide himself or herself is like demotivating their PhD student, that is gone. They will make one of the worst presentation actually. So worst career also.
I want to take a message for the supervisors and potential supervisors here in the audience. Professor Sridhar, please.
just motivate them. That's all.
Dr. Sridhar, please.
Hello, Shamprasad. Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I have a sort of peculiar experience while during my teaching. What I used to do is, I used to go slow. 1 hour or 45 minutes I have to speak, and then motivate the students on a particular topic. The teachers are always hurry to complete the syllabus and complete the part of that part. That's what I used to do. I used to go slowly for about 20 or 30 minutes. Last 10 to 15 minutes, it was that is in a very faster way that students sometimes used to say that, sir, your talk was good, but we could not understand at the end of the talk like that. And another experience I had was, sir, your talk, your lectures will definitely they will be good, but your corridor talk on the topics will be excellent.
Much
and
more
we
better.
can understand better when we stand in the corridor and then discuss on so many issues like that.
I think
same thing happens with regard to field studies also. The field studies, whenever you go with students, they used to ask so many questions, unlike the classroom, and they will get good answers, and it is a sort of humorous thing, and we invariably give our experience and such things like that.
You are always an inspiring teacher. Even though I'm from a neighboring department, I always liked you because you're always an inspiring person for us. Even today. The work what you did.
I think the field study or the field experience is the one where we form the rapport.
More important.
That is more important, and they talk freely because there is no binding of any sort. And then the ice is broken, and once the ice is broken, then it's like absolute free flow of knowledge.
Especially in the scientific lab, I think the lab like practicals are more important, because I think during that time they talk a lot actually with the guide, students.
Very
Classroom, they are not having so much of time to talk. But
thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Rajesh Kumar, please.
Thank you, Dan. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Shamprasad, sir, thank you very much for an informative talk. In fact, I liked that you kept it black and white and informative. That was the
Okay.
most striking part of it. And
Okay.
my question is simple. As a research mentor,
Mhm.
uh, uh, what are your like tips for improvising PhD students like presentation skills in a lab?
I would say like I mean, when my first student presents, it's always, I mean, you can always see mistakes, but don't, I mean, you can only tell that, okay, this is some of the mistake, but tell them that you can improve it later. So what I do is always give some sort of positive, I mean, input to them. I never say that you made it a mistake. I know that they made a mistake. Maybe they're even the subject also sometimes they make mistake, but I never say that. I mean, I say that it is some mistake, but you can always improve. But that I can see like after every presentation, of course, in my NFI university, they have like a presentation every 3 months. And I watch them, like I watch them very carefully. Like, so you need to give some sort of personal, I mean, you have to take care of them at a personal level. Individual student, you can look at them, how you look at their last presentation, then you can say that, okay, you have improved this part, you can improve the next part. So it's a learning process. I mean, some students are excellent presenter, like they can present from the first presentation itself. They can do good, very good presentation, but some need a lot of experience. And like in such cases, the boss can motivate them, even if they make mistake. Also, just tell them in a positive way. Okay, you can just improve it. So and so otherwise, I mean, if there is an institute presentation, what I do is I ask them to present it one day before to me, in front of me. So then I correct it, like how you can improve it, like what are the simple things you can improve, all those things. So we always have, before any presentation, like even if it is a very simple presentation also, I make them to present in the lab in front of my group. Then I allow all my other PhD students to give the input, because each one will have their own opinion about presentation, improving it. So that is the best way, I would say. Like at least if there is a presentation in the institute, you ask that person to present in front of your group for like 1 or 2 days before, so that the student will have enough time to correct it. So you should go in a positive way, actually. Even if after correction also, if they make mistake, don't scold them. That is what with the modern, I mean, the current student, I mean, we were old generation students. Even our I mean, PI or boss scold us also, we used to keep quiet. But I think today the psychology of students has changed, actually. So they take everything negatively. So even if you scold them, then they think that it is, you are insulting them. They don't take it as like, because it's a, I mean, change of generation problem now. So now we have to go with a lot of positive thinking, actually. So a lot of motivation. So they will do great, actually. So I mean, that's what I do.
Thank
I
you,
do
sir.
very simple.
Thank you, sir, for explaining. Have you
Okay.
come across any best practices for this, like improving and scheduling the lab presentations and communication skills?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. Like, I ask them to present it, then I correct their PPT to some extent, and I send them to all the conferences. So, all the talks, like, to learn how other people present it. And so, I mean, it is a practice. Like, I mean, you can't make your student to be, I mean, presenting best talk in the first presentation. It takes, I think, with 3 or 4 years of training, they can certainly improve it. So send them to different conference for presenting. I mean, they make mistakes. Like you can ask them to give an oral presentation in some conference or something. Even what I do is some conference, like local conference, they ask me to present talk. Then I also take my student, and if possible, they also allowed to give a talk. Because yesterday we were running like 3 days workshop. Like I gave opportunities all my PhD students, even one of the intern who was there for 3 months. I gave them as a resource person. Like you have to give them its opportunity, and I think it works. And with positive mindset, it works. We can
Thank you.
improve any worst candidate into one of the best candidate. I mean, that is what my experience, actually. but
Thank
only
you, sir. Thank
positive
you once
thinking.
again. Thank you once again, sir, for
Okay.
enlightening us with a very informative talk in a very orderly manner. Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Shamprasad, I just wanted to add one point about the performance pressure, just before the presentation, especially in a big conference. And when I was doing PhD at the Hong Kong University, all the team members, including my supervisor, went to Thailand for Asian Microbiological Society. When my supervisor's turn was about to come for presenting, he looked very restless. I seemed almost nervous, maybe anxious. I mean, even big people face this performance pressure.
Yeah.
That's quite normal, I guess. And
I think any presenter, I think first 2 to 3 minutes they are nervous, even if they're big shots or things, because that's a psychological problem, because they don't know the audience. So they always have this psychological fear. I mean, I think almost 99% of the speakers have this fear for the first 1 or 2 minutes when they start presenting. That is where they make some minor mistakes. But after 1 or 2 minutes, then it's like your show, actually. So that is what
I teach our PhD students here in the institute, and after the first slide, I try to show a small video, just 15 seconds.
yeah.
It's not that the video is going to be very impactful. It's just that I'm going to settle down fast and I'll be in the rhythm. That is the thing I learned, actually. Just keep a small video about related to the subject, so that they'll be busy watching the video. You are also kind of settling down.
You need at least 2 to 3 minutes to get settled. What I do is I just look at my computer and set the PPT, all those. By that time, I think I'm set to talk. So before you have the eye contact with the audience, so you need to spend like 2 to 3 minutes yourself, or you drink water, I mean, this is some of the techniques I use, but within that 2 to 3 minutes, you're set to go for a big talk, actually. But it's a common problem with all the speakers, actually. As soon as they go to stage, first 2 3 minutes, they're always psychologically some sort of nervous, actually. I mean, I don't know why it is.
But my personal experience after hosting so many speakers, the best part of the talks come when they are able to finish the talk.
Yeah, so that's always like that.
That's the best part of the talk, where they are summarizing the story is coming to, the pieces of the, coming together as a good story.
Yeah. Because by that time you already know your audience, because you observe them and you know that how they are behaving, all those things. So then you know them. It's almost like you know them personally, and some sort of this is how you communicate with your friends, relatives, all those things. I mean, after 1 or 2 minutes, you start talking a lot.
Yeah. Priyanka, shall I please ask you a question from Mysore?
So, good afternoon. This is Dr. Priyanka Shenoy from Mysore University. So I'm teaching for a graduation level student, sir. Just now I have completed and submitted my thesis. So how to keep these graduation students attentive, because they'll be attentive for first 45 minutes. So after that they will start, I have a new technique now to show them the video as per Shanai sir told. I'll show them some animations or some immuno techniques. Now I'm teaching them immunology. So, how to keep them still more attentive, because we have to complete the syllabus within this prescribed time, and sometimes it's like a stretch of around 2 hours of lectures. So, how can it be still more effective, as well as so that I can take good initiatives?
First of all, what we need to realize is today's students are not dependent on teachers. I mean, that is what I see. They don't need teachers; they need mentors, actually. So I think we all have to be a mentor. So what I do is I teach half an hour, then I tell some stories, not like stories about some experience, or you have to divert them into different world, actually. You can talk about some other things, then you come back to your topic. Then they actually come back. Even you can go teaching for 2 hours. Doesn't matter. But you can't teach only immunology for 2 hours. They are not interested, actually. So you talk immunology for half an hour. So then in between you bring some, even it could be a movie or something. You can talk even about a movie, a recent movie or sports, anything for 5-10 minutes, 5 minutes. So then you come back to immunology. They will come back again. So that is what I do actually. I take like 40 minutes talk. I mean, if it is 1 hour, I mean, teaching, 40 minutes I talk about the subject. So then I change to completely different topic. I mean, it need not be related to immunology, or you can talk some Nobel, I mean, recent Nobel Prize winning work or something. They want some sort of diversion actually.
Yeah.
They are not at all worried about like it's this continuous, because today I mean, if they just open YouTube, they can get better teachers there actually. I mean, any
Yeah.
subject. I mean, we think that we are good teachers, but I think they get better teachers with all the schematic diagrams, everything. So they are not at all worried about your subject expert, because I mean, even if you look at, I mean, they read from Wikipedia and Google. I mean, they even don't read from your notes actually. So you have to be mentor, because today we need more mentors who can motivate the student and who can change their mind. To you have to switch them in between. We talk for 20 minutes subject, then to 3 minutes. Also, you can allow them, if it is 2 hours talk, give them 10 minutes break. Let them go out, have a, drink water or something. You have to give that. You can't do this like 2 hours. You can't keep any audience for 2 hours unless like I don't think anybody can sit for 2 hours of continuous immunology teaching.
Continuous, yeah, definitely.
Because
Stretch, at a
they're
stretch we
not at all
cannot, sir.
worried.
Even we were students. Yeah, even we
Yeah,
were
I
students,
can't
we
say
couldn't.
like so you have to
Yeah.
change like after 30 minutes you change into another completely new subject or talk general, like you talk about movie, recent movie. They'll be happy to listen to that, then come back to immunology, they will be again interested in that. So that is what I do it actually.
Yeah.
They always keep 10 minutes for extra talk, anything.
Yes.
They're fine. They're fine with any talk.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your valuable suggestions. I'll just follow. Thank you.
It worked with me, so that is what I
Yes, sir. Yeah.
PG level.
Yes.
So,
Yes, sir.
Shyam,
Thank you.
let me once again at one point from my personal experience. When I was a high school student, we used to get these teachers, training teachers from B.Ed for pursuing the B.Ed. And they told me that students can concentrate for only 20 minutes. Yeah. Is there any neurobiological data to support such thing?
You can see them, no? They will sleep after 30 minutes if you go on talking same subject actually. But what is the problem with the current teachers are like the teachers are not trained. For example, I mean, most of the teachers, you told that B.Ed training, during B.Ed they are get training like how to deal with the psychology of student, but like those who are teaching currently for PG and like higher level, they are not like they don't have teaching training. So they don't know the psychology of students. So that is where like some of the teacher fails to bring the student to the classroom. Like now students just sit and count 75% attendance. So they want to spend more time outside or like so. I mean, literally it is happening. Like students just count how many, like if they're 75% attendance, they're fine. They are not interested to come to class. So if you want to attract students, you need to have a lot of psychological planning in the classroom actually. So
Okay.
that's
Thank you. The last question is from Afifa Kainat from Pakistan. Afifa.
Hello, sir. I'm audible.
yeah, audible.
Okay, sir. My question is, what specific communication strategies are essential for conveying complex scientific concepts to a non-specialist audience? Or how can scientists effectively communicate uncertainties and limitations in their research findings while maintaining the credibility of their research as well?
You mean for the public?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, try to make it simple if it is in the English. But I would say like if you want to go to public, you start speaking in local language actually. So it makes very effective actually. So if I go for public speech, I prefer my local language Kannada. So people try to understand this. So you try to convert your scientific communication, I mean, scientific discovery in a very simple way in local languages also. It works actually. So even I started writing some article in Kannada also nowadays, like, so it goes to people. So first make it very simple. So then if publics are like more, if they prefer some local language, like, so, I mean, even Hindi, Kannada, whatever it is, like, I think they prefer that actually.
Right,
Hello.
sir.
I hope.
Thank you so much.
I think she has a very good question. He had a very good question. My practical advice would be, you present in front of your cousins or family members who are not from the science background. This is how you communicate to general public, right? Afifa.
Which one? Afif.
No, if she wants to develop some communication skill to reach the general public, okay, she can start from her home actually, where her cousins who may not be from science background start
Yeah, you
telling
can talk
them.
to them first. Yeah. You talk to them first.
Yeah,
If you,
see how, yeah.
if you can convince them, I think you can also convince the public actually.
Yeah,
my son who's doing his PhD in physics in Germany, he calls me if he has something to discuss so that he gets his points clear, and he calls me and talks physics to me. I listen to him, and some part I understand. Then he asks me, "You repeat what I have told you." I said, "It's difficult to repeat, but I have understood, and you can get your points clarified by just talking to me." So when you talk, you think over when it gets improved. So I let him talk. I listen to him. Whatever I've understood, then I ask him. Then he answers that question, and that's how it goes on. So every night that ritual happens, when he wants to discuss, or whenever he gets with certain stuck in certain point. So that's how I think maybe we can encourage our students also to do that, and give a open free hand. You can call up anytime.
Now that's what I do with my PhD students or my students. What I tell them is like, because they're staying in a hostel where students coming from arts, commerce, different field. So I tell them to present in front of them. So if you could convince them to understand, like, people from the completely different field, because they have roommates, no, like, their roommates, you just present in front of them. If a science student can convince a art students and a commerce student that the message, if you make them to understand, I think everybody will understand. That is what I read here. That is what I tell them to do it actually. But it works actually.
Definitely. That's what is communication.
Yeah, it's a communication.
Yeah, but we must also admit that science communication to public is not everyone's cup of tea. So it needs special training and it needs special skill sets. People can try, but it will take lots of hard work and a little bit of mentoring also. Actually,
very true, very true.
Yeah. Any final comments from Dr. Sridhar, the editor-in-chief of Micro India?
Yeah, it is very nice discussion with Shamprasad, and a lot of good questions. And see, teachers are always facing some difficulties to communicate to others, and how to make youngsters to follow it up and try to convince them like that, because they have a lot of distraction, and also they are more informative many occasions. One of my experiences is that I went to one that is one of the meetings, and I was, as you mentioned, they have not informed me who are all the audience. So when I went there, I made my preparation on fungi and started speaking on fungi, and after 2 minutes, one person came from behind and came.
What is fungi?
That is no. It is a group of language students, English, physics, chemistry. All those people are there, and how do you? We cannot understand what you are speaking like that. Then what happened was automatically I have shifted towards telling stories, different biological aspects, some insects and some fungi, and how they are controlling all such things. I was not. It was not well prepared, but it was appreciated by a lot of people because they could understand a little bit of information on various aspects of like that. That will happen many occasions. So Shamprasad, it is very interesting, and I think Damodar also can think of some topic where the skill of writing some of the ideas in future, probably in MycoAsia or MycoIndia, you may think of that. But somebody is going to speak about that is again communication skill in terms of writing the paper, research paper, and what are all the components to be there, and how to project it in a nice way, and what are the different aspects like that that can be taken into account in future. Shamprasad, thanks a lot for your.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it is very useful, and a lot of good questions were there, and you have answered almost all questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sridhar. Thank you very much for those words, and especially the suggestions that we could have more talks related to paper writing. I was thinking about proofreading. If people could learn about the proofreading, they could publish some very good papers. Proofreading is an essential part of publication, actually, and we would also need lots of proofreaders, volunteers who could proofread for MycoIndia. In that sense, also we would like to train people for on proofreading. Dr. Shamprasad, sir, it has been wonderful having you with us. And it has been quite an interactive session we had, and your presentation was quite effective, as I told you earlier. You made your points very clearly and loudly, in the sense it reached the audience and it made them think, I believe. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again. And whenever I come to Mangalore, I'll try to meet.
We should meet. We should come to Enopaya University.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your active participation.
Thank you so much, Shanai. Thank you, Dr. Shamprasad. Thank you, sir. Sridhar, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your active participation today. With this, we sign off. I will share the link to the feedback form. You feel free to submit the feedback. Maybe you could take some 10 minutes to submit your feedback. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.